Hey, squirrel bait. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and tomorrow's Thanksgiving, and I'm just sitting up thinking, these holiday season comes around, and it's easy to get to thinking, everybody's going to visit family, everybody's giving gifts, and it's just all these holiday movies, you know, supposed to be all happy and joyous, and sometimes you get to thinking maybe, if you ain't got something like that, then, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe, just it's easy to get down a little bit. Because life ain't movies, and you're living life. And so you just, I don't know, maybe you do have a family to go to, and you can't go. You gotta work. Can't afford the trip. Maybe you just don't want to go. Maybe you don't get along with your family. You know, maybe you got bills piling up. Maybe, that's just life. That's something that we all experience, and that's problems we all have to learn how to solve. Um, it's just the way it falls sometimes. And so it can be hard to be thankful in a holiday like this, and then you sit there and especially if you focus on the big things, it's like, I know I didn't win the lottery. Well, I know I still got to go to work. That's what I'm up for. I'm getting ready for work. You gotta, it's like, you gotta, you got things you gotta do to provide for yourself and yours. And sometimes even it feels like everything that you're doing ain't enough. And it's easy to get hung up on that. You know, I know why. So, let me tell you a story. So, me and a friend had planned a float trip. And we were going to do a 4-day float trip on a river that we were both very familiar with. And we had our canoe, and we had all of our gear, and we were gonna have us a big old time. It was gonna be a vacation, summertime. And so one of the keys to this float trip was that we were gonna hunt and fish, and we were gonna only eat what we hunted and caught. And we had a couple of side dishes, we had a couple of cans of pork and beans and mixed vegetables, and oh man, every night we were gonna catch us a mess of fish all day, floating down the river, enjoying the weather. And at night we was gonna fry them up and eat like kings, be like the pioneers. And and this is another important note, is neither one of us owned a cell phone. Cell phones existed at the time, but we couldn't afford one. It was back when they charged you by the minute. And so neither one of us had cell phones. And neither one, and we hadn't packed any food, substantial food anyway. And so as opposed to driving ourselves up there and leaving our truck in the parking lot for a week. We had his dad drove us out there and dropped us off, and knew to meet us in 4 days' time at the destination where we were going to stop. There was a little campground there with a payphone, and so when we got to where we were going, we was going to call him, and he was going to come and pick us up. This was a long float trip. Like, we intended to float, several miles every day. It was, I think, well, I don't remember exactly how many miles in total it was, but we planned on floating, I think, about 7 to 10 miles every single day. And then hunt and fish and set up camp, and mostly fish. There was one spot we wanted to hunt along the way. So we get to where we're going to launch the canoe. We load everything up and we say our goodbyes. Hey man, we're going to have us a great time. Y'all enjoy. And we launch the canoe and he drives off. And we started on our trip. About 30 minutes into this trip, 30 minutes into our 4-day float trip, our ride's long gone, and we're out there just laughing and cutting up and talking about everything and life. We hit a log floating just below the surface of the water that we didn't catch with the canoe, and it dumps our canoe in the middle of the river. And in a pretty big hole. And oh man, we lost everything. We drug the canoe up to the bank and we're diving, trying to recover anything. We lost all of it. We found our 2 fishing poles. One of them was broke. We found our tackle box. It was just full of water. And we found my 22. And so we had one fishing rod. The other one was broke. And a tackle box full of ruined, like, we had some lures. We lost our can of worms that we was going to use for bait. And we lost our sleeping bags. We lost our tent. We lost our cans of pork and beans. We lost pretty much all of it except for what we had in our pockets. Like, we had our pocket knives, and that's pretty much it. Cigarette lighter, wallet. That's about it. And we were laughing and cutting up, but we were only laughing and cutting up to keep our spirits up, because we both knew this was serious. Like, here we are 4 days with nothing. And so like we were trying to keep each other's, because you got that high. You're just like, oh man, we're gonna have a great time, and we're gonna just live life. We're just gonna live like kings, and we're gonna be out here and just enjoy it, be one with nature. And then crash, just all that gone, all of it. And so I mean, we were fighting to keep morale up. Now we could have turned around and we could have went back and flagged somebody down on the road. We could have paddled our tails off and probably got to where we were supposed to go in 2 days. It's still 2 days. But we didn't. We'd already committed. And, we were stubborn. And we still had just a little bit of that optimism from the beginning, from that high, It's like, we still got our tackle box. We still got one rod, and we still got the 22. Like, we won't have any pork and beans, but we'll still eat good. And so we didn't. The first night, we didn't catch anything. We hit every hole we knew in that river. Like, this is a river that we both knew well. This is a river we had both floated a lot of times. And these are woods that we knew well, that we had hunted a lot. And so it's not like it was an unfamiliar territory. And so we hit every fishing hole we knew in that river. And we didn't catch anything. Nothing. You could look down in the water and see the fish. They didn't want what we were offering. Like, we had a couple old plastic jigs in that tackle box full of water. They didn't want them. And we tried. We tried every trick we knew. We climbed up on bank and used a stick to dig a couple of worms up from underneath a tree to use for bait. Still nothing. Oh man, we were just... So that night, first night, clothes are still damp. We had to wear our clothes dry. So clothes were still damp. My boots were still full of water. One pair of socks and they were drenched. No tent, no sleeping bag, just laying there on the bank next to the canoe, listening to the crickets sing and my belly grumble. Second day, we launch. Well, today will be better. And so we just hit every fishing hole we could find. We watched the trees. It's like, man, just a squirrel, something. And the second day was more of the same, just nothing. Just fighting and struggling just to catch one fish and just nothing. I mean, we caught a couple of itty bitty, wouldn't have been much more than a potato chip. So we threw them back and just nothing. Just hungry, thirsty. We were drinking river water. We didn't have anything to boil it in. But I mean, we couldn't stand it no more. You just grab a handful of river water and drink it. It wasn't the best water I ever drank, I promise you that. And so the third day, we float. Again, just bad luck all around. And we're pretty low spirits. Well, I mean, just, we've got needs we're trying to fill. We're hungry, we're cold, we're tired, we're not sleeping good, we're wet. My feet were starting to blister from wearing wet boots for 3 days, and I'm sure his were too. You got itches and you got scratches and you got, it was not a happy moment, but we kept on soldiering on. We just struggled through it. The third day, we're fishing and we're hunting. There's a spot we stopped that we knew and we hunted it. Nothing, and maybe we were just, at that point, maybe we were just desperate, started to get sloppy. And just struggling. And so we pull up to camp for the night. Not any campground or anything. We literally just drag a canoe up on the bank of the river and just slept next to the canoe. And it's not dark. You know, we've still got maybe an hour before dark. And we're sitting there next to this tree. And a fish comes up. You know, like I said, we're just sitting there just miserable. You know, just bemoaning our lot in life. Hungry, listening to each other's bellies grumble. We ain't even got the energy to really talk. So we can't even encourage each other. We're just sitting there just And this fish comes out of a hole in the bank. And I'm sitting there looking down at it, and it just comes out of this hole in the bank. And man, that is a beautiful fish. And it just floats up to the surface. And I guess to feed, like I said, it's approaching dark. Some bugs dancing on the water. And where we were at was kind of a still bend in the river. And it just floats up. And I shot it with that .22 rifle of mine. And before the bullet hit the water, it felt like my friend had seen what I was doing and he had a fire going. And I went and grabbed the fish out of the water and got it up on bank and started filleting it. And I very careful, every chunk of meat I could get. And we found a couple of green limbs and run it through the fillets, threaded it through the fillets. No, we didn't have anything. So we didn't have any salt, we didn't have any pepper, we didn't have a ketchup packet, we didn't have nothing. So just bare fish, and roasted those 2 fillets over the fire like a hot dog. Sit there and just roasted them 2 fillets over that campfire like a hot dog. And I gotta say, that was probably the best fish I'd ever tasted in my entire life. I have been to fish fries. I have eaten fish from New Orleans to, you know, Minnesota and both coasts, and like, that was the tastiest fish. Nothing on it I'd ever eaten in my life. And we were hungry. We were hungry, and we couldn't. It was so good, we couldn't just gobble it up and just choke it down just to get food in our belly. Like, we were just pulling little pieces off and just savoring everything we had. And oh man, that was the most delicious, juicy. Like, I thought like it was the outside because the fire was real crispy and had a crunch to it, but the inside was still flaky and juicy and warm. And so we were thankful for that fish. Like, I don't think I'd ever been so grateful. And it wasn't a monster. It wasn't like a wall hanger. And it was just a pretty modest fish. But I was never so happy to have one fish in my entire life. And you know, if we'd have had all of our gear, you know, we'd have been safe. We'd have been secure. We'd had an easy time. But we didn't. You know, we weren't safe, we weren't secure, and we weren't having an easy time. It was hard. But when we had that need fulfilled, we were truly grateful. Truly grateful. And sometimes that's life, you know. Sometimes Sometimes you just have to be truly grateful for just a need fulfilled and not sad because you didn't get a want fulfilled. But we finished our trip and we went home back to our warm beds. But that fish was still, to this day, and that's been years ago, to this day, that is still the best fish I've ever caught in my life. You know, and so it's like, sometimes 4 quarters, well, pretty much always, 4 quarters is better than 100 pennies. So if you got that one fish, that 1 quarter, then you've got a lot more than a lot of people. You know, if you got that one friend you can call and talk to and trust, you got more than a lot of people. You got a roof over your head, you got a lot more than a lot of people. You got a lot to be thankful for. And, you know, sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in what you don't have. But, you know, keep in mind, you got them quarters. You know, we're all struggling. You're not alone. You're not alone at all. But, you know, be thankful. And I guess what I'm trying to say, like, I know this YouTube business, I'm never going to be famous. Yeah, I know that. And I know that I could be sad, but I'm not. You know, I've got what, 7 subscribers? I want you guys to know that I am genuinely thankful for you. Like I said, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. I am genuinely thankful that you guys are involved in my life and that you've allowed me to be involved in yours. And I'm thankful. Thank you. So just sit back and reflect. You know, I know it's the holidays and I know it's easy to be caught up. Take your time. You know, life's too short to rush. Keep your stick on the ice. And know I'm proud of you. I'll see you later. Bye.